Hi, thank you so much for having me at today's very important conference. I'm sorry for the informality of my background and of me. I'm traveling right now, so things are a bit different. But I wanted to point your attention to the book of Numbers, the single most dangerous challenge to Moses' leadership during the 40 years that he led the Israelites through the wilderness, through the desert. It takes us to the story of Korach and his rebellion. What exactly the story was is a bit difficult to follow, but suffice it to say that Korach put together a group of rebels, not coalescing around a common complaint or argument, but instead disparate groups coming together to sow discord. And what's fascinating is when it happened, the chronology. It happened right as the Jewish people, the Israelites, found out that they would be spending 40 years in the desert, which is such a relevant idea. Generally, a leader can mobilize a people with a certain vision, but of course, to fulfill that vision, there's going to be setbacks and disappointments. And it's at that moment that that cold, calculating, ambitious type of person, such as Korach, can foment discontent against the leader, accusing him of being a self-seeking tyrant, when in reality, he wants to become a tyrant himself. First point. Second point is it is exceptional how the story ends. It seems as if the rebellion gets stronger and stronger, and eventually God decides to put an end to it using force. And at one moment, the earth swallows up the rebels. And you would think that that would be the end of the story, but it is not the end of the story. Because the next morning we are told that the whole Israelite community grumbled against Moses and Aaron. You have killed the Lord's people. In other words, a rebellion that started with 250 men now has turned into a collective complaint of the Israelites. The conflict has not finished. But at that point, God intervenes again. God tells Moses to take 12 staffs, one for each tribe, and to deposit them overnight in the tent of meeting. The next morning, the staff bearing the name of Aaron and the tribe of Levi, had sprouted, budded, blossomed, and bore almonds. And only then did the rebellion end, which is a astonishing idea, something profound. The use of force never ends a conflict. It adds grievance to injury, and even a miraculous use of force. The ground opening up and swallowing opponents did not secure for Moses the vindication that he was looking for. What ended it was something gentle, the visible symbol that Aaron was the chosen vehicle of the God of life. This gentle miracle that showed that even at a moment where everything seems dead, you're told that you're going to be spending the night, you're going to die in the desert. But once again, that stick will bloom, and once again, the next generation would live and reach the destination, the Holy Land, the land of Israel, the land of Canaan. The episode of Korach teaches us that there are two ways of resolving conflict, by force and by gentle persuasion. The first negates your opponent, the second enlists your opponent, taking his or her challenge seriously and addressing it. Force never ends conflict, even if miraculous. There could never have been a more decisive intervention than what God did, yet it did not end the conflict. And that is conflict resolution in Judaism, not by force, but by pleasantness and peace, ideally. 2 millennia ago, the rabbis asked the question, Ezehu Gibor, who is strong, who is heroic? And you would think the simple answer, one who defeats his enemies for his people. But the rabbis did not give that simple answer. They said, Hakoveshet Yitzro, somebody who overcomes their inclination, somebody who can turn an enemy into a friend. And that's true, because if I defeat you, I win and you lose. And furthermore, I also lose, because by diminishing you, I diminish myself, as we are all in the image of God. But if I forgive you, and if in that moment of truth you can forgive me, then we can have reconciliation. And reconciliation can lead to friendship. And in friendship, instead of fighting one another, we can fight together the problems we share, such as poverty, hunger, starvation, disease, violence, injustice, and all of the other problems facing our world. We both gain, and everyone that we're associated gains with as well. So who is a hero? Somebody who can turn an enemy into a friend. And I recall reading an account of Rabbi Jonathan Sacks of blessed memory, the chief rabbi emeritus of the British Commonwealth. He stood in Kosovo amidst the wreckage of war. The NATO operation had just come to an end. The Kosovo Albanians had returned home, but in the air there was an atmosphere of bitterness and anger. Months earlier, the Albanians were in the terror of the Serbs. Now the Serbs feared reprisals from the Albanians, and there was peace, but it wasn't real peace. War had ended, but reconciliation had not begun, and most of the soldiers with whom Rabbi Sacks spoke feared for the future. They feared that the conflict would begin again because it was ended by force. And Rabbi Sacks realized that right then and there, that there is only one word that has the power to change the world, and that word is forgiveness. If we can forgive others and act so that others can forgive us, then we can live with the past without being held prisoner by the past. But that's only if we forgive. And that is why you are a hero, because it takes courage to forgive. Because forgiving means letting go of the pain, letting go even of our sense of justice, our feeling that we have been wronged. And that's what, in war, Rabbi Sacks explains that even ordinary people become heroes, but in pursuit of peace, even heroes are often afraid to take the risk. And you think of the exceptions. You think of people, right, going now to the state of Israel. You think of people like Anwar Sadat of Egypt and the late Yitzhak Rabin. Both had the courage to make peace, and both were assassinated. Why is it so hard? Why is reconciliation so hard? Well, think about it as a Jew. I'm going to speak as a Jew, as Rabbi Sacks did before me. As a Jew, I carry with me the tears and sufferings of those that came before me through the generations. The story of my people is the story of 1,000 years of exiles and expulsions, persecutions and pogroms, beginning with the First Crusade and culminating in the murder of 2/3 of Europe's Jews during the Holocaust. For centuries, we knew we risked being murdered simply because we were Jews. So how can I let go of that pain when it's written into my very soul? And yet, that is absolutely what I must do. For the sake of my children, I have to do that. Will I bring any of the previous Jewish victims back to life by hating those that persecuted, by hating the Germans? Will I bring our people one step nearer to freedom by denying that same freedom to others? The duty I owe those that came before me, those that died because of who they were, is to build a world in which people no longer die because of their identity. I honor the past by learning from it, by refusing to add pain to pain, grief to grief, and that is why we must answer hatred with love, violence with peace, and conflict with reconciliation. And the only way to do this is to forgive. Thank you very much.